I was halfway through skimming leaves out of my pool when this voice behind me, sharp, cocky, full of teenage bravado, cut through the morning. You're going to need to clear out soon. My mom owns this neighborhood. For a second, I thought he was kidding. I stood there with the net in my hand, just staring, trying to size him up. He couldn't have been more than 16, but he had that smirk, the kind that only comes from someone who thinks he's untouchable. Karen's son. I'd seen him around, usually trailing behind his mother as she stormed from porch to porch, passing out her suggestions to everyone within earshot. But today, apparently, he figured he was running things. Excuse me, I asked, still not sure if I was actually awake or stuck in some HOA-themed sitcom. You heard me, he said, puffing out his chest like a bantam rooster. This pool isn't yours anymore. My mom says once the HOA makes a few changes, we'll be in charge. So, you better get used to me and my friends hanging out here. I almost lost it right then, because let's be real, my pool, fenced in, right smack in the middle of my backyard, is not exactly public property. But there he was, talking like he'd just inherited a kingdom. Thing is, I'd dealt with his mom, Karen, self-declared queen of the cul-de-sac, more than once. She had this way of acting like every blade of grass, every garden gnome, every mailbox belonged to her. She'd file complaints with the HOA about flower colors, tell people their mailboxes were off-brand, and basically treat every neighbor like one of her subjects. I usually let her nonsense roll off, but now it seemed she was grooming her son to take over the empire. I told the kid, voice steady, this is private property. You step foot in here again, I'll call security. He just smirked, eyes glinting. We'll see about that. My mom says once she takes over, we're running things. That means I get the pool whenever I want. And then he strutted off like he'd just signed some royal decree. I tried to shake it off. Just talk, right? Maybe he was bored. But next morning, coffee in hand, I step out and nearly drop my mug. 3 boys in my pool, blaring music, towels and sodas everywhere. One of them, you guessed it, is Karen's son. They'd hauled out my cooler, dumped ice and sodas all over my good patio set, and had the nerve to wave at me like I was the guest. Right then, I realized this wasn't ending with a warning. I set the mug down and marched outside. Out. Now. My voice cracked like a whip, startling 2 of them, but Karen's boy just grinned, lounging on my favorite float like he was king. Relax, my mom said we could use it. She's going to be in charge soon anyway, so technically this is already ours. That tone, condescending, practiced, made my jaw tighten. This is my property, I said, barely keeping it together. Your mom doesn't run anything here. You're trespassing. Get out before I call the police. He stretched out, arms wide. Go ahead. Mom will back me up. She told me the whole neighborhood's basically hers already. You can't do anything to me. At that point, I thought, this is next level. I'd handled Karen's petty complaints before. Grass too long, mailbox wrong color. But this was her teaching her kid that rules didn't apply to them. Before I could say another word, the back gate creaked open and in swept Karen herself, clipboard under her arm, sunglasses perched high like a crown. What's going on here? She demanded, as if I was the intruder. What's going on? I shot back. Is that your son and his friends broke into my yard? This stops now. She barely blinked. Don't be dramatic. The HOA is discussing new amenities. Once I'm chairwoman, this pool will be part of the neighborhood. We're just getting a head start. I laughed, couldn't help it. This pool is behind my fence on my land. You have zero authority here. Her son, emboldened, chimed in. See, told you mom's in charge. The 2 of them, so smug, so sure nobody could challenge them. I told them to leave, immediately. Karen just crossed her arms, said, we're not going anywhere. And if you call the cops, don't expect the HOA to take your side. That's when it clicked. She wasn't just flexing over a pool. She wanted to make me bend, and by extension, everyone else. But she was about to find out how wrong she was. That night, I sat down at my desk, every muscle in my body tense. I pulled out my property deed, the HOA bylaws, the community map, anything that spelled out the lines. Sure enough, my boundaries were crystal clear. The pool was mine. No HOA clause could touch it. Next step, email to the HOA board, deed attached, every detail outlined, hoping for a quick response. What I got back felt like a slap in the face. We'll need to review this carefully. Until further notice, please remain civil. Remain civil. while my yard turned into a teen pool party zone. And sure enough, the next afternoon, laughter echoed outside. I peeked out. Karen, her son, his friends, snacks, folding chairs, the whole parade. She'd even brought an umbrella and was lounging like it was a club. I snapped, grabbed my phone, stormed outside. This is your final warning. Leave, or I'm calling the police. Karen didn't even flinch, just pulled out her own phone, smirked. Go ahead. I'll tell them you assaulted minors in a community space. Her son splashed water in my direction, egging her on. Yeah, call them. Let's see who they believe. For a split second, I felt cornered. Because honestly, if she spun things the right way, the HOA might take her side. But then it hit me. She wanted a scene. If I lost my temper, she'd use it against me. So, I just smiled, steady, perfect. Let's involve the police. And just so you know, I'll be showing them my deed and the footage from my security cameras. That got her attention. Her sunglasses slid down her nose. Her son's grin faded. They hadn't considered cameras. Still, Karen doubled down. We'll see what the board says. This isn't over. But the bluff was cracking. The next morning, I organized everything. Property lines, bylaws, and high-def camera clips, showing every detail. Karen leading her little parade through my gate, boys diving in, my furniture getting dragged around. With it all in a neat folder, I called the non-emergency police line, calmly explained the situation. Dispatcher didn't even hesitate. That's trespassing. We'll send an officer. A few hours later, a squad car rolled up. Relief, finally. I showed the officer the paperwork, the videos, even the HOA emails. He nodded. You've got everything you need. We'll handle it. Not an hour later, the officer's car pulled in front of Karen's house. I watched from my porch. Karen, clipboard clutched, answering the door, her son peering over her shoulder. I couldn't hear them, but I saw the change in her posture, gesturing wildly, pointing at my house, trying to spin her version. The officer just shook his head, held up the tablet with my video evidence. That's when her whole act crumbled. Her arms dropped. Her son disappeared from the doorway. Within minutes, the officer handed her a notice, trespassing violation. One more stunt, charges would follow. The boys got a warning. Karen was told in no uncertain terms to stay away from my property. When the officer left, Karen glared daggers across the street, but said nothing. Her son, usually so smug, looked like he'd shrunk 2 sizes. Word spread fast. Neighbors who'd endured Karen's power trips for months suddenly found their courage. Little by little, people started ignoring her fake rules, pushing back when she made threats. And without the HOA backing her up, her grip on the neighborhood dissolved almost overnight. Me? I got my peace back. I could swim in my own pool, drink my coffee by the water, and not worry about teenage royalty or queen bees barging in. No more bogus claims, no more clipboard parades, just the simple quiet of a backyard earned the hard way. Karen thought she could crown herself and pass the scepter to her son, but all she did was show everyone how little power she really had. And I proved, right there in my own backyard, that sometimes standing your ground, with facts, with patience, with a good set of security cameras, is all it takes to topple a fake throne. So here's my question for you. Where do you draw the line? When is it just neighborly patience? And when is it time to stand up for yourself? Was I right to call the police? Or should I have handled it differently? Let me know down below, because stories like this, they're not as rare as you think, and everyone's got an opinion when it comes to justice and community.